In this video we're going to tie a fly called the Fat Albert. It's a hopper pattern. First thing we're going to do is start off with the Tiemco 5262 hook and some tan UTC 140 thread. We're going to tie this fly in a brown and tan color. So the first color I'm going to start with here with the foam is going to be a brown 2mm foam. I've trimmed it so that it's about the width of the gap of the hook. We're going to tie it in on top of the hook as centered as we can. Then I'm going to take it just a little ways down the bend of the hook and wrap forward, covering up all the extra foam. Now the next color we're going to use is the tan foam. This will be the segmented or the under body of the fly. Same thing, start it up at the front, spiral back, keeping the foam centered. Now we're going to take both these pieces of foam, we're going to do one more wrap so that the foam, both pieces, go slightly down the bend of the hook. Then I can wrap forward. Now the next step is to cover up all that extra foam. So I'm just going to wrap through it several times, covering it up. This is where the UTC 140 comes in handy because it's a flat thread. It does a better job of covering up than a bound thread like uni. And this is kind of the hardest part, is to cover up the back portion of the fly, because you're kind of right around the point of the hook. You have to work around it. Now, once you have everything covered up, we're going to take our thread and we're going to segment that tan foam. So I'm just going to kind of measure out a little segment. I want to be just short of the point of the hook. I'm just going to take that foam, lay it over the top, and take a loose wrap of thread and bite through it. Now I'm going to just take the thread, spiral forward. I'm going to make a segment the same size, and spiral forward, make another segment the same size. There we are. Now I'm going to take my brown thread or brown foam, pull it over the top, take a loose wrap of thread, and secure it down. Now we're going to tie in our wing material. For that I'm going to use a little bit of white McFlylon. I'm going to kind of tease out the tips of it. We're going to tie that in right there at our foam. Now I can tie in the back of the fly. I'm just going to use a little piece of tan foam, just like the segmented underbody. I'm just going to leave a little piece hanging off the back. That'll help kind of keep my little McFlylon wing in place. Just like that. And you can trim your little wing. kind of tease out the fibers. There we go. Now we're going to tie in our legs. What I've done is I've taken a little brown round rubber leg and I've tied a little knot in it, and then I've super glued the knot so it doesn't come undone. And we're just going to tie that in right on the side of the fly here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And this one's a little longer, so it's kind of getting in my way. Just trim out a little bit of it. Now I want to make sure that the legs on each side of the fly are roughly the same length to the knot. Once I get them pretty close, I can lock it into place, and I'll kind of angle those legs so that the back one goes up just a little bit. And I'm going to lock it down with a couple tight turns of thread and peel it all back out of the way. Wrap down a few more times, and I'm going to stop just short of the eye. And I'm going to bring all the foam together. Do a nice loose wrap with my thread. Second one, and then I'll be able to just pull down and crunch all that foam together. Now I'm ready for my front legs. I'm just going to tie in one plain piece of rubber leg. And I'm going to do the same thing on the far side. Lay down a couple tight wraps to keep it secure. Then we can whip finish underneath all that foam. Takes a little bit of practice. Kind of have to use both hands, peel everybody back, and then whip finish. Now we can trim the head. I'm just going to take everybody together, put my scissor right up against the eye, give it a trim, and then you can round off kind of the sides of those pieces of foam, make it look a little more lifelike. There we go. Then we can trim our legs. I usually start with the back ones first. Then I'll trim the front ones. And you can kind of trim all the front ones together just by grabbing them all. Don't pull on them. You just want to take them all together. If you pull on them and stretch them, then some of them will end up a different length than some of the others. So I just pull all of them together. Don't stretch. Just give them a trim. And you can kind of situate everybody. This fly is usually a little leggier than some of the other hopper patterns. So I like to leave the legs just maybe a little longer than I would some of my other hopper patterns. Kind of trim some of that wing to make it look just a little bit more natural. There we go. And you can use a marker on some, like if you had tan legs, you could use a marker to kind of variegate or kind of bar them with a Sharpie. But with the brown legs, I just leave them just like that. You can also add a hot spot to it. I've seen guys do that as well. But that's a pretty simple little hopper pattern called the Fat Albert. Floats high, very durable. You can also add a coat of gloss coat or some head cement down there to protect the wraps. I usually don't use super glue because it'll white and kind of discolor with time. So that is the Fat Albert.